First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessor, transmitting masters, lecturers, everyone here today for this opportunity to discuss this topic. Let go of all karmic affinities. This is something you hear a lot. We talk about a lot. Actually, I don't know. Actually, this wasn't really the topic that I was originally planning. I was basically like this last week at the end of the class. There was a question about attachments and kind of discussing that. And actually, that's what I wanted to talk about today. But somehow it turned into this. So, but anyways, all right. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so as you may have just heard, the song that we played just before the class is called Balance as a Sea and Sky, or Balance, my holy teacher. Basically, it says, karma from past deeds, fate decidedly, right? Love from the heart be, naturally be free, heaven sent are we, our own masters be, unborn yet thou be, enlightened ones do see. Lives pass constantly, unaware are we. Quarrel less, few worries be, boundless like sky and sea. If broad-minded are we, tranquil and marvelous life will be. Okay, so karma is from our, obviously the present day, you can say consequences of our karma is from past deeds, whether in this life or more likely in previous lives. And that is what results in what we call karmic fate. So it decides our karmic fate, what happens to us in this life, in the future. Okay. We all have this love, this true love, this Tao love, or you say God's love, divine love. And if we can express that true love, you can say that's compassion. Then, and obviously all the stuff that we talk about in terms of the cultivation, and, this here says swayan, which is to be kind of in accord with affinity, then it's very natural. It's, we're very free. Okay. Then, heaven sent are we. So we are all from heaven. Basically, that because we have that Buddha nature essence. And that is, you can say that is God's essence. I mean, that is part of the essence of God. And so we are all, you can say we're like angels or, whatever, but we all have shared that same essence, and, from heaven. And so we should, let our Buddha nature be the master, be in charge. I mean, we cannot live without the Buddha nature. It's just that what happened was somehow we, developed this ego, this personality, and over many lifetimes of accumulated, habits and temperament, that became who we are, or that's who we thought we are. And that's not the real true self. And that's the one that keeps causing us to create more karma and to continue in this endless cycle of birth, death, rebirth. So we need to kind of break out of that and let our true master, which is our Buddha nature, be in charge, be the true master of our lives. So the Tao is unborn. It has no beginning, no end. It always was, always is, and always will be. So is the Buddha nature too, our essence, right? And so if we're awakened, we're enlightened, we realize this. Okay. Lives pass constantly, and where are we? So we see, in life, in the world, we see constantly, people coming and going, lives come and go. And we're not, most people who are not, they're not awakened, they're not enlightened, they don't realize that it's just part of a continuous cycle, okay, and that we just only see the here and now, which we don't see the complete picture. So we should quarrel less. Then we'll have fewer worries, fewer concerns. So all the things that we should do less of, like we talked about in the past few weeks. We should be, very boundless like the sky and sea, very broad-minded, big heart, magnanimous. Okay, so if we are and tolerant, also tolerant, forgiving, all that. Okay, so if we are very broad-minded, then life will be tranquil and marvelous. Okay, so this is a nice, beautiful little song, scripture by a holy teacher. Okay, so this kind of relates, to actually I should have used this in last week, but so it relates to last week's and I guess this week's topic as well. All right. Okay, so to let go of all karmic affinities and not give rise to a single thought. That's like the full phrase that you hear all the time, that we say all the time. It's basically, you can say that if we can do that, okay, and we'll get into what it is, but we can achieve basically quiescence of mind, right? So we want to achieve that stillness, the calm, composed state of mind. That's the quiescent mind, right? When the mind is basically, it's clear, it's you can say it's empty. It's not truly empty, but it's empty in the sense that we don't have thoughts. Then that is that quiescent state where, when we are in that quiescent state, the Buddha nature, and the prajna wisdom, then is revealed, right? So it's like, because, right, the Buddha nature is always with us. It's just that it's in the back. It's kind of like in the background, and we don't, because our conscious mind is so loud, and is always in the front, in the limelight, and it's kind of in control, in charge of things, including with our senses, that we don't notice or we don't realize that the Buddha nature is there. But once we can calm our mind down, let go of these karmic affinity, let go of everything, just have a very clear, you can say empty mind, then naturally the Buddha nature then can, you can say, then it reveals itself through, you say prajna wisdom, for example, awareness, okay? And that awareness is beyond what our normal awareness, sensory awareness is. Okay, so this quiescent state of mind is unperturbed, so it's not disturbed by the senses, including our thoughts, desires, and emotions, okay, our feelings and sentiments and all that. Now, you might think, well, our senses, why should we be disturbed by our senses? I mean, our senses, as a human, we think, well, or any animal, we rely on our senses, right? We depend on it, right? I have to be able to see, to be able to hear, to be able to touch, taste, smell, right? It seems like we can't live without senses. I mean, you have people who have, maybe they have a disability, they have a limited, they're blind, or they're deaf, or whatever. Sure, you can live without them, and then what they do is, in that case, they rely on the other senses even more. Okay, so it's always this reliance on the senses and reliance on the external forms, the objects of the senses. But and sure, they have heightened senses. The other senses are more heightened. Like if you're blind, your sense of hearing, maybe your sense of touch will be, and sense of smell will be even stronger. But still, that's not the ultimate. Okay, and you're still subject to the five skandhas that we talk about, going through that process of sensory input and sensation and feeling, right? Perception, differentiation, intent. Okay, so that's all still there. So that's what this being disturbed or perturbed by the senses. Okay, so now, but to have a quiet mind, quiescent mind, then we cannot let these senses disturb the mind. Okay. Now, so it's like basically these senses, it's like, okay, so we sometimes we use like an analogy of a pool of water, right, to represent the mind. And if the mind is quiescent, then that pool of water the surface is very, well, first of all, the water is clear all the way to the bottom, and the surface is smooth as glass. It's like a piece of glass, okay? And it can reflect anything, everything exactly like a mirror, right? And then so if we really can maintain that quiescent mind, no matter what kind of sensory input we get, it's like throwing rocks or stones into the water, into the pool, and they don't cause any ripples. They just drop right through, and then they don't disturb the water. Okay, so then that might seem difficult to achieve, but that's what this letting go of all karmic affinities and not giving rise to a single thought is all about, trying to achieve that. Now, it's also we have to relinquish all attachments and external reliance, okay, or karmic affinities. So this is also part of it. So like last week we were talking about attachments. We have to let go of those. Attachments is basically kind of like either we have something we don't want to let it go, or we want something. Okay, there's grasping, the clinging of the objects, which are either external things, material things, or internal in our mind. So they could be also, feelings, emotions, desires, our views, okay, our points of view, our ideas, conceptions, right? And we have some kind of maybe a stubbornness in those that like, we might be stuck on the right and wrong, dualities, okay? So all these things. The external side, there are these affinities. Anything that kind of comes up in our lives, basically, is due to some kind of karmic affinity, okay? And so those are basically, you can say that those are all like conditions, okay? Affinities are like the conditions that come up. And so we should not, well, so as it says, letting go of those affinities, don't get into those and don't become attached to them, definitely, okay? Now, of course, we have to deal with things as they come up, but the most important thing is that we don't become attached, and that we don't kind of deal with it in a way that is biased or emotional or any of those things. Okay, and so and finally, so we have not give rise to affinity or conditions for the karma to mature. Right. So basically, the affinity you have. Well, first, right, we have karmic seeds. Right. So anything we do, any action results in planting of karmic seeds in our eighth consciousness, okay, the alaya consciousness. Okay, so that's the storehouse where all karmic seeds are stored there, right? Now, karmic seeds doesn't mean that we'll end up with a karmic consequence, okay? But, there's the saying that one thought results in one karma, or more. If you talk about more severely, it's one reincarnation, but but one karma. But that's only if the affinity is there, if the conditions are there for it to ripen. Okay, so it's just like seeds. You plant the seeds, but Well, yeah, you can say that when we perform these actions, we're not really planting seeds. Okay, the seeds are automatically, they're like scattered on the ground, okay, in this field. And whether they actually grow, right? They sprout and grow and mature into some karmic result. We can kind of control that. Okay, so we can determine that, and that's what this practice of letting go of all karmic affinities and not giving rise to a single thought is, to try to not create those conditions such that these karmic seeds grow into bear fruit, into a karmic consequence. Okay, so that's the idea. So that's why we don't want to give rise to the affinity or conditions for the karma to mature. Right. Okay, so so we really have to learn to let go or relinquish. So we talked about a lot for the past few weeks, and also throughout our classes we tend to talk about this because this is the key practice. Okay, so we have to let go of feelings and sentiments about people and things. And also let go of the encumbrance or the burden of tempers and habits. So those are the things that we have to work on, right? So we say in Chinese, 改毛病去脾气, right? To correct our faults or shortcomings and get rid of a bad temper. Okay. And then also, and then the first one is, basically we don't want to have our feelings, sentiments, emotions get in the way of, because when we're using that, first of all, it's irrational. Okay, so it's no longer using our rational mind in dealing with things. And so then that can lead to more, really, you really do create karma out of that. We do things that maybe shouldn't have been done, or we go overboard or whatever. So at least the rational mind, when we're dealing things with the rational mind, it's not as bad. I mean, there's a logic, there's a reasoning to it. But even then, again, you can say right and wrong. So it falls into duality. And then you can potentially have a problem there too. So ultimately we want to let go of these things. And we, also we want to vanquish, kind of overcome or kind of defeat our subjectivity, right? We tend to be very subjective because, from our point of view, I am right. Okay, so this is all very subjective. And, so that is the thing that we're trying to get to be more objective. Ultimately, the most objective is just coming from that Buddha nature. Okay, it's coming from the prajna wisdom. Okay, so but the subjectivity comes from the ego, right? So that's we talked about last week and the weeks before. So we try to get rid of that. All right. Okay, so what we have to do is kind of focus or concentrate without having any other thoughts. So it's kind of like the fifth paramita, right? The concentration or samadhi. Samadhi is kind of the highest level, but to concentrate when we're doing things. So, for example, so what this is the lecture Liu. He talks about when he talks about this. He says, well, we can start by having, you can say one thought, if you will, of let go of all karmic affinities. That's the thought. Okay, we concentrate, focus just on that thought alone. Okay, and then so you can use this method to kind of block out other thoughts. Okay, so of course you can use anything really, but so letting go of all karmic affinities, you can just keep repeating that in your mind to block out other thoughts, for example. But this is using a what we call, there's some kind of a motivation or some using a form to achieve the end result. Okay, so like we say, we start with有为 to achieve the 无为, right? The motive, start with some kind of motivation to achieve the non-motivation or the spontaneity, spontaneous action. Okay, so we have to start somewhere. So for many people, we start with something that's has a form. Okay, so you can do that, or you can also chant like the Buddha's name, title, or people chanting or reciting sutras. Again, the important thing when you do that, so like we do, the mantra, for example, but of course that's only the silent mantra, that we do it just in our mind. But important, whether we're reciting or chanting the Buddha's name or any sutras, is that our mind should be, again, it should be blank, have no thoughts of anything. Okay, so we're just reciting it or chanting it. So that also to help, realize that quiescent mind. Okay, so it's just singular focus, singular concentration on just that, all right? Now, when we do the bowing or the kato, right, it's the same thing. That it's similar to like when you're reciting the sutras or whatever. Again, we shouldn't be thinking of anything else, have no other thoughts, not worrying or about anything else. Oh, what am I going to do after I'm done katoing or whatever? That's we shouldn't have any of those things in our mind. Okay, it's just concentrate on the doing the bows. Okay. So again, same thing, achieve that quiescence of mind. And same thing, like when we're conducting the proprieties within the temple or ceremony, like for example, receiving the Tao, or doing the offering or whatever, you have the two announcers. So those announcers, if everything is going according to the procedure, usually not a problem. The problem happens when there's some, you can say like ad hoc, the procedure is, kind of changed somewhat on the fly. And that's where some confusion occurs and then people forget, what comes next? But that's because they don't maintain that quiescence of mind. Okay, there's not full concentration on, even though, there is, maybe, you didn't start from the beginning, you started somewhere in the middle or whatever, or there's some slight changes that sometimes happen due to the circumstances, and then we get kind of confused about what's next or what are we supposed to say. But that's thing is, that's where we let our senses, right? Earlier we said it's disturbed by our senses, by what we're hearing, what we're seeing. Okay, and that's disturbing our quiescent mind, and therefore we can't maintain that concentration on what we're supposed to be announcing, for example. So this, I have a lot of experience with this. A lot of times where the transmitter decides, they'll skip whatever part of the beginning or make some changes, whatever, and sometimes then their mistakes will happen because we're not ready for that, and we're suddenly maybe get nervous or confused. But if we can really maintain that quiescence of mind, then no matter what the changes are, we'll be able to deal with it. Because it's really first of all, of course, we have to memorize the procedure, right? Or even like the sutras. Ideally, we memorize them as opposed to we're reading to recite it. Because when you're reading, it's kind of you're still kind of focused on the form of the words, right? So ideally, it should be memorized. Okay, so memorized, and then you don't have to think about it, and it's just the words, or the sounds, whatever, they just come out. Okay, one after the other. So the same thing with conducting the propriety or ceremony, the announcing. It should just flow out naturally without thinking. Okay, and then so ultimately, what we want is to have that quiescent mind all the time, and so no matter what we're doing, anytime, anywhere, whatever, anything that we're doing, it's with that quiescent mind. And so, like I said earlier, that quiescent mind is when the Buddha nature is revealed, and our prajna wisdom can be revealed. And so then whatever we do will be, you can say, will be appropriate, okay? We'll do the right thing all the time. And that's the ultimate, of course. So a Buddha is always in this state of mind. They are never perturbed by senses, okay? So now obviously you say, well, I mean, they're not in physical form, so maybe they don't have the same or senses, but like even when they channel, they're borrowing this body, that those senses, it won't bother them. Okay, so it won't disturb their mind, right? So, okay, so but obviously this takes a lot of practice. This is not something, I mean, it's easier said than done, as usually the case. I mean, the principle is very simple, but to actually do it, that's the hard part, okay? So the quiescent mind is like a, state of mind is kind of like a mirror. And it lets the Buddha nature respond to whatever it is that appears in front of us or at the time. Whether it's some kind of a, karmic affinity encounter or whatever, whatever situation, whatever person might be, the Buddha nature then can respond directly, as opposed to our mind kind of getting involved, our various levels of consciousness, our senses, our sixth consciousness, seventh consciousness, right? Those when they get involved, then that's when we're going to be planting the seeds of karma again, and we may end up doing things or saying things that do not resolve this karma, the current karma, and cause the current karma to maybe it can get worse. Okay, so or to perpetuate it. So we're able to respond to people and matters as appropriate, which we can say is quote unquote objective or just right, and it's always harmonious. So that's why that harmonious bit, if we are stuck on, what's right and wrong, my view is right or whatever, it has to be this way, then it cannot be harmonious. Okay, so that's why to be harmonious, then we have to kind of let go. We have to let go of that stubbornness. Say, this is right, this is wrong, okay, or it has to be the way my idea, or it has to be this way. Okay, so we have to let go of those. And then also the other characteristic, if you will, is that we retain nothing afterwards. So after we're dealing with or responding to whatever it is at the moment, there's no attachment. Okay, so we retain nothing afterwards. There's no sentiment, no like or dislike, no desire or aversion, right? So it's kind of like they say, like when you visit the national park or something, it says you leave no trace behind, right? And you just leave only with your memories. Okay, so you don't disturb, you don't leave anything there, no trace. So same thing. So as we deal with things, we don't want to retain any. I mean, memory. Okay, memory is a function of our of our brain, I guess, our mind. And it's not to say that, we don't need to remember. We should just try to forget everything. Now, Yeah, it's true. We say that, oh, there's certain things that we should try to forget. But you know, whether we remember it or we try to forget it, the important thing is we don't dwell on it. Okay, we don't let that then continue to nag on our mind, nag on it, and cause us to, you know, so then that becomes an attachment. Okay, and then it causes us to, you know, maybe it gets us angry or whatever it is. It arouses our emotions or something like that. So that's why, you know, you generally say, you know, try to forget it. But but of course, once it's in our memory, it's generally it's there. It's just it could be hidden in the back somewhere that we don't. It never pops up into our mind again. But ideally, you know, that's what it is. It's that yeah, we deal with it and then we let it go. So just like the mirror we mentioned before, an image, you know, appears or something, an object appears in front of the mirror, right? So that's when, in that moment, right, the mirror reflects the object. So that's where we're responding to that moment. And then when the object is no longer in front of the mirror, there's nothing reflecting at it from the mirror. So it didn't leave any trace of it in the mirror. Okay, so the same thing. That's how we want to operate. Our mind should be like that, right? So when we achieve quiescence, we're also basically awake or aware. Okay, it's that Chinese word 觉. Okay. Now awareness, it's coming from the Buddha nature. Okay, so it's not from. This is not our sensory awareness. Not coming from our eyes or our ears or our nose or our tongue, mouth, you know, our touch. It's not that kind of awareness. Okay, this is Buddha nature awareness, which goes beyond that, beyond those physical senses. Okay, sometimes we call it, you know, the sixth sense, or maybe like an intuition, a gut feel. You know, sixth sense. Well. I generally don't like to use sixth sense because in Buddhism, they, you know, those are, you know, we have five senses plus the sixth sense, which is the mind, and so that's one of the senses. So we don't say that, but in the general, you know, how people generally talk about, they talk about the sixth sense. Okay, so it's similar to that, where it can, there's an awareness of something that we are not conscious of. So you can say it's like a subconscious awareness. Okay, it's coming from the subconscious. But it's, yeah, we're not conscious of it. Okay, so we don't know. You know, so sometimes we have, where we have this kind of sixth sense or intuition or gut feels that, you know, today I shouldn't go to work or I shouldn't go wherever, you know. And that's usually, you know, our Buddha nature awareness is letting us know that. Now it may not let us know, like consciously say, oh, you know, it's because of whatever, something's going to happen, and if you go down there, you know, you'll be in danger. Okay, so usually we don't know the reason. It's just that we're just aware that I don't want to go that way. It shouldn't go that way. And sure enough, something does happen. Okay, so we avoid it. So we have to be, you can say, open and aware. You know, this consciously aware to be, consciously aware of this other awareness that potentially we should listen to it. Okay, this you know, whatever you want to call it, the sixth sense, intuition, gut feel. We should listen to it because it is probably going to be right. Okay, and so you know, I've had some experience with this too, and this is like in the temple. See, we have a kitchen in the temple, right? And obviously they cook. You know, it's a gas stove and all that. Now, but one day and this happened more than once actually. You know, I'm in the classroom or in the other corner of the floor, basically. And I don't know. It's just I don't know exactly why, but it's just like I want to go over to the kitchen, So I walk over to the kitchen and I discovered that the gas on the stove was on. Okay, now it's probably turned on. The knob was probably turned accidentally when they were cleaning and no one noticed. Okay, so there was gas coming out, and so when I got close to the kitchen, I smelled it, and so I was able to turn that off. So this happened actually at least a couple of times. So obviously I wasn't aware that I didn't even smell the gas until I got really close. So it wasn't that the smell that I had. So this is the Buddha nature, because the Buddha nature knows. The Buddha nature is aware. The Buddha nature is basically can be, technically it encompasses the whole universe. Okay, so if we let it, right? If we let it, then we can be aware of anything that's happening in the universe. Okay, so but unfortunately, we don't let it. As much as we would like that. We don't let it, because why? Because we don't let go of all these other things. Okay, so that's why letting go, the relinquishment is so important to achieving that. Okay, so if we can't relinquish, we can't let go of all these other stuff that we think is us or ours, then we'll never achieve that. All right, so after a while, after we are able to let go and kind of have this quiescent mind and this awareness comes out, gradually that prajna wisdom also comes out, and we can get greater insight into things. Okay, and everything will basically be clear. I mean, with this wisdom, with this prajna wisdom and this insight, things will be very clear. Okay, we will have a very good, clear understanding of things, of the principles of everything, nature. Now that sounds like it's wow. This is great, right? This is like a really superpower that we want. Yeah, okay. Well, but we are not trying to gain certain abilities or powers. Okay, so the Buddha nature has, like I said, it kind of pervades the whole universe. Okay, and so it is basically part of God. It is God in a way, and so it has abilities. Okay, it has these powers, but we are not seeking these powers. I mean, it just comes naturally. It's part of its function. All right, but if we try to seek these abilities or powers, right, we pursue them, then that ends up going on the wrong path. Okay, so that's first of all, that's your way. There's a motive. We want the intent we want to pursue these powers, and then that is no longer the Tao. Okay, so and when you do that, then you won't achieve the ultimate. Okay, it's definitely you cannot achieve Buddhahood that way. And it just basically, so we just have to realize that this is these are natural functions of the Buddha nature. And we should just accept that and don't try to pursue it any further. It's just that do what we're supposed to do, which is, let go of all these other things, maintain a quiescent mind, just let our Buddha nature be in charge. The Buddha nature itself will not say, oh yeah, yeah, let's enhance these powers. I mean, it already has these powers. There's nothing to enhance anyway. So it's only the ego. So that when we are pursuing these things, it just points out that we still have that ego that we want to and desires, right, to pursue those things. And so then obviously, we still have that ego, and therefore we're not going to achieve the ultimate. So we still haven't let go of the ego, right? All right, so whatever comes into our path of life and our involvement in it is the karmic affinity, or it's some kind of affinity. Okay, so you can say it's also setting up the conditions. All right, so it could be, it's an opportunity, an encounter, or a coincidence, right? That's what kind of we call this affinity. So anything, there may be, I would say probably most things in life it's due to some kind of affinity. Okay. There could be, I guess, maybe some cases where it's I don't know, it could be pure chance. It's hard to say, but for the most part, it's probably all affinity. Okay. And our involvement in the affinity then plants the karmic seed. Okay, potentially, well, yeah, I mean, there's always the karmic seed when we get involved in something. Now, then our attachment is what leads, attachment to that affinity or to whatever our involvement then leads to the maturing of the karmic seed into a karmic result. This is what we don't want. We don't want to create this. The karmic seed, unfortunately, is always going pretty much, always going to have those seeds. But whether we don't want it to necessarily become a karmic result. Okay, so we cannot have, first of all, that attachment. Okay, now let's see. Okay. Okay, so the affinities or maybe karmic affinities that happen, that we encounter, that we deal, in everyday life, some of those could be karma. Okay, the karma, the result of past, the karmic seeds, they're coming to fruition maybe. A lot of them are just so far, they're not, they haven't come to fruition, they haven't matured yet. It depends on how we deal with it, basically. Now, but the ones that already bear fruit, so to speak, the karmic result, we do have to resolve them, okay, or pay them back if it's some debt, okay. But here, I guess, is basically we're not trying not to create new karma or new karmic results. Okay, so we're trying to prevent new karmic results. I mean, some of them, they're already in process, and maybe there's nothing more that we can do to stop it. But and in those, we do have to face them. And again, how we deal with them, we want to resolve it in a harmonious way without creating more karma out of it. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to resolve one karma and in the process create one or more karmas. So again, that's so how we deal with it should be the same, really, as anything, as with not trying to prevent the new karmic results. Okay, so that the opportunity or the encounter or the coincidence. Okay, so it could be from past life affinity, right? It could be the result of actions of this life, the karmic reward. It could be a karmic reward and retributions, like what I was saying. The karmic result is happening. It could be something like a serendipity, right? So where it seems like a chance encounter, but it's actually turns out to be something that's of benefit, that's useful. Okay, there are a lot of things. It's hard to, because we unfortunately we're not aware. Okay, so we don't have that kind of awareness where we can see, we know our karma, but a lot of things are connected, right? There's things, it's like so a lot of things in our lives, maybe people we walk by every day, or the obvious things are the ones where, we have family. Okay, there's karmic affinity there. Our friends, co-workers, perhaps classmates. But it could be, you just meet a stranger somewhere. That could also be a karmic affinity, okay, from past life. That this affinity is very I don't know how you say it. It's like very light or very shallow, or or it's very brief, okay. And it's a chance, and it seems like a chance encounter, but the question is whether if we follow, dive into that, become attached to it, and then it develops into a greater karmic affinity. Okay, so in general, Lecture Liu is saying that we shouldn't get into those karmic affinities as much as possible. But really, I mean, we do have to deal with things, deal with people all the time. It's just that we should not be attached, okay? And we should, again, deal with it in the way that's appropriate, harmonious, without bias, without subjectivity, without emotion, feeling, all those things, okay? If we can get rid of those things, then it's kind of like a very neutral thing. It becomes neutral, and we won't create more karma out of that, and we might be able to resolve the existing karma. Okay. Yeah, and so everything is connected. There used to be a show on PBS, I think it was, called Connections, right? They're showing how one event is going through a series of other events or processes, and it eventually ends up, connected to this other thing. And so, yeah, we are all very connected. It's like a very tangled web of connections. There's karmic affinities, because past lives, we probably have, who knows, countless past lives. We've, met different people, and we've had different, our affinity is different with each one, and we have different karma, and so all this, it can be very complicated or confusing. So I mean, we don't have to worry about that. It's just realize, understand the principle behind it. Okay. All right. So, and then now, when we get into the involvement, then basically depends on how we respond to the affinity, so, and what we do, right? So ideally, what we want is Wu Wei and Suiyuan, these two principles, I guess. It's a response that is spontaneous, unbiased, motiveless, effortless, unforced, and unattached. Okay. It's basically the second, the Suiyuan part is also, it's like according to the affinity, according to the conditions, if you will. Okay, so, but some people, maybe they mistake that to be, it's according to their own their own will, their own whatever. So that's not right. Okay, because then the ego is involved there. or that self is involved. So it's not about that. Okay, so yeah, so it's basically, in general, it's categorized. You can characterized by these things: spontaneous, unbiased, motiveless, effortless, unforced, and it's unattached. Okay, so that's how we should respond to any situation or matter or people or things. Okay, so if we can do this, then we can delay potentially the maturation of karma. So we are not. So again, that karmic seed, you have basically the karmic seed plus the affinity or the conditions. If they are right, then that results in the karmic consequence. Okay, so the karmic seed we cannot change. That's already there. It's planted in our 8th alaya consciousness. Okay, so now, when the affinity arises, in other words, the conditions arise that maybe are ripe or can ripen that karmic seed. So then that's where it depends on what we do, right? If we are just a normal sentient being or ignorant sentient being, that we do things according to ego, according to emotion, bias, duality, all that stuff, then yes, that karmic seed will ripen as a result of that. Okay, so this is the way to prevent that, right? We have to do things according to these two principles, Wu Wei, Suiyuan. Okay, so we won't establish that karmic. We won't establish, and in the process, okay. So not only does that original karmic seed does not sprout and mature, and we will not create new karmic affinity out of this either. Okay, so that's why so it's very important. Okay, now and then finally that third, where the if we do have an attachment, so now obviously with Wu Wei and Sui Yen there should be no attachment. So if we don't do it this way, we're going to have Yo Wei, okay, and that kind of response then could be calculated, right? We're thinking how we should deal with the person or things or whatever, or it's emotional, biased, motivated. It's kind of almost like the opposite, forced, with potentially there's some kind of strings attached. This is the response of an ignorant or sentient being. So this is what we don't want, right? We don't want to do this. We don't want to respond in this way. Okay, so anything that's like this, if it's coming from our ego, it's coming from that self, then unfortunately, then we are not going to be changing our karmic fate, right? This is the way to follow basically the karmic fate or live out according to our karmic fate. Whereas the Wu Wei and Sui Yen, then we can potentially change our karmic fate. Okay, right, by not having those karmic seeds mature and turn into the full-blown karmic, whether it's karmic retribution or karmic, like we say, rewards. Okay. Okay. So this is how not to do it. Okay. Okay. So now another important thing is to understand is, right, this mind of non-duality. We have to achieve that non-dualistic mind, and we've talked about this already. So what's duality, right? We say right and wrong, good and evil, like, dislike, love, hate, attraction, aversion, right? Desires and emotions, or we also have preconceptions, judgment, bias, prejudice. Okay, so so these are the things that we have to avoid, and especially not be like I think I maybe already said this like last week or last few weeks, is that it doesn't mean that we don't care about what's right and wrong. We don't know what's right and wrong. We have to know what's right and wrong. Okay, and then, but it's again not attachment, not being stubborn about, oh, it must be this or not that. Okay, and obviously when we apply it to ourselves, we always try to do what's right. Okay, we always try to do the good. Okay, but again, no judgment of others, saying, oh, they are right and wrong, or they are good and evil. We should avoid judgment, okay, of others. Okay, so because then that falls into this duality. Okay, so and then everything is all relative to begin with, so that makes it difficult to say, oh, my judgment is absolute. We can't say that, right? And it's also due to, you can say, these things kind of are given rise through basically the five skandhas and our six senses, right? Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, mental formations, right? The mental formations are thoughts, ideas, views, intentions, emotions, attachments, delusion, ignorance, ego, okay, preconceptions, all these things. The ego, right, has preference, idiosyncrasies, personality. This is all false. This is the false self. Okay, this is the false idea of who we think we are, and it's not really. That's not the Buddha nature, because it's not the true self. Right. So this is the you can say it's the delusional self. Okay, so we're deluding ourselves into thinking that this is who we are. So that's not. All right. Okay. So this, anyway, all these, this duality will give rise to karmic affinity. Okay, and all right, and it'll fall into or play along with that karmic affinity, and so that's not what we want. So we have to also get rid of this mind of duality. So what is non-duality again? What's the sound of one hand clapping? Well, okay, no, but it's again, no attachment, right? this Wu Wei Buddha nature, spontaneity. Again, it's motiveless, effortless, enforced action. Okay, without residue, without so there's nothing left behind. Nothing. I mean, there's no. It leaves not leaving a trace. Okay, within us that where the trace. Again, like I was saying, yeah, we may have a memory, but we shouldn't. We don't need to think about it. Okay, so that's not having the residue. And then so Suiyan, according to affinity, it's an unforced response in the moment, right? It also has no residue. Okay, so because there's no attachment, right? So it's just okay. So whatever in this moment, in this situation, these are the conditions, and this is what the appropriate response is. And once that's over, once the response is done, then we have no residue, we have no attachment to it. Okay, it's done, right? And so we don't have to think about it. We don't keep thinking about it. Sometimes people, they make some donations, and they say they have to tell people, hey, I made a big donation, man. So whatever. That's having a residue. Okay, so that's having an attachment. Okay, so anything, even so, like we do good things, we should just forget about it. Okay, it's done. Once it's done, it's done. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do is basically 微光返照. Okay, so it literally means to reflect the light, but it's basically to rein in or pull back the heart and mind, right? Our heart and mind it's like a light or an energy, right? Light energy, whatever. That you imagine that light energy, it's the light is shining outward, right? So it's through our senses. Again, that's our interface to the world. All our energy is going outward, right? Our eyes look at things outside. Our ears hear things outside. Our what we touch is all outside, external. Everything is pretty much our focus, our attention, our energy is spent on the outside. And even if we're looking for the truth, we're looking for it in the wrong place. We're looking outside for the truth. But the outside does not have the truth. And the truth is within us. And so we have to redirect that energy, redirect that light within us to illuminate the heart and mind, our own heart and mind within. Right? We awaken to the true self, or the Buddha within us. Okay, because the Buddha is not outside, it's not out there. The one that's out there is just the Buddha of form. We want to find the true Buddha, which is within us. Okay, so that's why we have to look within. And part of this, you can say, of doing this is we have to self-reflect and introspect. Right? We don't complain about others or blame others or judge others. Right? We have to reflect on ourselves. And that's the only way to find that Buddha, find that true Buddha within, that true self within us. Okay. Nanhai Buddha, or Guanyin Buddha. Okay, so Nanhai Buddha discusses relinquishment. Okay, so this is part of Okay, so it says let go of the selfish heart and mind and the biased, prejudiced heart and mind. We will realize that we have missed many great affinities. Because of our, you can say the selfish heart and mind, the ego, the egocentric view of things, that prevents us from really seeing things the way they should be seen. And so maybe there are a lot of good affinities that were, that we've encountered, but then we dismissed them or whatever, we messed them up because of the selfish heart and mind or the biased, prejudiced mind. Okay, if we cannot let go of the false self view, right, the Atman, the soul, or the idea of a permanent self, then no matter how good people or things are, they will be obstructed by our subjective view. So, when we have this false view of things or this subjective view, a false view of ourselves, basically, and subjective view, then even though we're dealing with there's some good people around us or good things, we won't really be able to appreciate or take full advantage, whatever, what it is, because of this subjective view that we have. Okay, so again, it's the ego, this false self that's messing things up for us. Okay, all right, and then so only because we are selfish that we think others are selfish. So only because we are suspicious and jealous that we suspect others are unfair to us. This is a habit that's fostered by arrogance. All right, so yeah, it's kind of like a mirror. Again, this in this case, it's like how we view others is basically because that's the way we are. Okay, so if we think they're lousy, that means we're lousy. Okay, so in this case, if we think others are selfish, then that's because we are selfish. Okay, so right, so so that's why Holy Teacher, the Buddhas, saints, they all tell us to look at the good in others. Just look at the good side of other, the good people's good nature. Look at don't look at their shortcomings and deficiencies and the bad temper, for example, or bad habits. Just look for something that's good in them. If that's what we focus on, if that's what we're looking for, then obviously it's coming from within our heart and mind, that we are good. That's why we're looking for good, right? If we ourselves are bad, then we're going to look for bad in others. Okay, so that it is a reflection of what's inside our heart and mind. Okay, so I think people don't really realize that. All right, so we think, oh, I am holier than thou. I am better than the other person, and so I can judge them. I can point out their bad, look at their bad side. Okay, so but that's we are not we are not above others, right? We are all equal. We all have that Buddha nature. Okay, so if we do not know to relinquish in cultivation, then there will be the I or me, the duality, birth and death, reincarnation. So relinquishment, letting go is it's a fundamental principle or practice in cultivation. We have to be able to achieve that, especially letting go of the I, the ego, that false self, duality, and to be able to transcend, and even the idea of this reincarnation, birth and death, any kind of attachments, we gotta let go of these. Okay, otherwise we'll still be caught up in that cycle of reincarnation. If couples cannot let go, so now talking about these situations. Okay, so among couples, right, if they can't let go, then it will destroy the harmony and there will be resentment, right? So again, where the couple, the husband and wife, they're arguing, there's a disagreement over something, they have a difference of opinion, and each takes a stand, in opposite corners, and there's no agreement. They cannot get along, right? So that destroys the harmony, right? And it builds up kind of a resentment among them. So so you have to be able to let go. Same thing with friends, right? If they can't let go, then it will create mutual torment and friction or conflict among them. Okay, so same thing. And if we cannot let go when doing things, right, then we will not be able to be willing and happy to do things. So in other words, yeah, if we're let's say I feel like I'm being forced to do something that I don't want to do, then of course I'm not going to be willing and happy to do it. But I have to let go, so that I don't feel like I'm being forced. I don't feel like it's something that I don't like to do. Okay, so those are the things that we have to let go of that feeling, let go of whatever our view is. Once we can let go of that, then we'll be, everything will be, we'll be willing and happy to do things. Okay. If we cannot let go of arrogance and insist that our views and thinking are right, then we cannot transform any karmic affinity. So this, again, this view that I am right, that I am above the others, then that is really, we have to get rid of that, definitely. Otherwise, the karmic affinity that it will then cause the karmic seeds to mature, and we will suffer the consequences. Okay, so such as if others do not conform to our requirements, habits, and standards, then we will constantly live in the abyss of the cycle of creation and destruction, or you could say reincarnation. So this is not about me. I am. You got to listen to me. Everything has to follow my way. So then this is that's the wrong way. That's the path of reincarnation. Right? Okay, so we have to relinquish, let go of the stone, the burden that's in our heart and mind to make up for our regrets, to dissolve resentments. So ultimately, we have to unburden ourselves from these attachments, and then we can basically, so obviously it's because it's because of the ego, because of all these attachments, things that we can't let go, that create regrets and create resentments. And so if we can really let go of these things, then we can then make up for those past regrets and dissolve any resentments that are there. To learn the way of Buddhas is learning to be a human, is really like learning to be a human being. People live in diverse times, right? Especially today, it's a very diverse world we live in. When in contact with others, besides affirming oneself and fulfilling our responsibilities, we should also have a tolerant heart and attitude to appreciate and accept others. Yeah, especially because it's so diverse, we have to kind of be able to accept all sorts of different type of people and everything. So you have to be very tolerant. Okay, so let's see. All right, so before we can change others, first change ourselves, right? So we heard Holy Teacher talking about this in the previous topic. We wish others to be compassionate to us, but if we have never been compassionate before, then how can we appreciate the true meaning of compassion, right? So, I mean, we maybe we know it as knowledge and say, oh yeah, you got to be compassionate. And so we expect others to be compassionate, but we don't necessarily know what it means to be compassionate unless we express it ourselves, right? So first ask how I deal with people and matters. Turn the outward-looking heart and mind inward and to introspect. Right? Only then can we be in accord with the Buddhas, teachers, masters, friends, and all sentient beings. Right? So, looking inward. That's that's the only way to become. You can say one with our Buddha nature, one with the Tao, and one with all sentient beings. Okay. Okay. Finally, relinquish. Let go of the old habits and burdens. Everywhere in the world is a pure land. How can one not be free and at ease, right? Once we've relinquished everything, let go of all these things that we shouldn't have, then we'd be free and at ease anywhere and any time in the world, right? It'll be like, paradise anywhere we are, right? We won't have we won't, get angry at anywhere. We won't, we'll be happy. We'll be fine anywhere. Okay. All right. So Holy Teacher says, cultivation is to relinquish that which is most difficult to let go. Yeah, this is kind of the hard part. Trials are the tests that which we are most reluctant to part with. Okay. So again, it's the things that are hardest to let go of, that's where we need to work on. That's what we have to work on. I mean, but because it's obviously it's easy to let go of the things that don't matter as much to us, but the things that really, I don't know, we have such a strong attachment to. Those are the things that we really need to let go of, get rid of. Okay, all right, and then so law enforcer Guan, all right, the Buddha, Guan, Guan Sin Di Jing. Okay, so his scripture, he says, let go of attachments, right? So without self-awareness, what's the use of more admonishment, right? So we have to be self-aware enough that we can, admonishment, we're getting rebuked or we're getting, maybe pointed to us, the things that, we need to correct maybe. But if we don't have that self-awareness, what's the use, right? Because we're not going to correct ourselves. Okay, so we're not aware. We say, I don't have, I don't do anything wrong. I don't do bad habits. I don't have whatever. If we can't admit to it, this is a self-awareness part. Okay, so that's why we have to look within, introspect. Okay, without self-discipline, what's the use of more standards and regulations? Same thing, or it's very similar. That we can have all the rules we want, but if I'm not disciplined enough, if I don't discipline myself, I'm not going to follow those rules. Okay, okay. So, and then without gratitude, what's the use of having a better environment, right? We don't know how to appreciate. The actually having appreciation, gratitude can give us a driving, a force. Okay. Gratitude, yeah. We need to know how to appreciate. So if things are, even better, it's no use if we don't appreciate it. Okay, it's no good. Okay, so without change, what's the use of listening to more principles? Again, just like we're in class, we're learning. Hopefully, we are learning and we're studying not just the knowledge, but applying that knowledge, applying those principles so that we are making changes in ourselves, right? We have to change ourselves. That's cultivation. So if we're not willing to change ourselves, then basically, then there's no point in listening to any of this stuff, right? Okay. So without taking responsibility, what's the use of receiving a higher position? Again, it's not about the title, right? So we have to take responsibility for whatever position we're in. Okay. Without resourceful people, what's the use of being in a good Tao temple or field? Okay, so so if we're not resourceful, if we're not we all have our you can say, well, it's just like the abilities, or what we can do, right? Maybe we're not all superstars, but but we have, maybe some people, they know how to cook, some people they know how to do things, and they can do those things, and they can be useful, resourceful people within the temple. Okay. Okay. All right. So conclusion. All right. Okay. So we want to let go of all karmic affinities. Okay. Redirect that mental energy inward. Right, unfortunately, we pursuing all those things outside, right? Pursuing wealth, pursuing fame, pursuing all sorts of things, material things, and our energy is kind of, you can say it's kind of wasted. I won't say it's completely wasted, but it's a lot of energy is wasted out there because at the end of this life, all that doesn't matter anyways, and so we should really put more energy into the thing that really matter after we die. Okay, so and so therefore we have to look within. All right, self-reflect and introspect. Right, not give rise to a single thought. Again, the thoughts. And I have mentioned this before. The thoughts. It's not that we cannot think. Oh, if let's say. I ask you, what's 1 + 1? Okay, and you have to think about it. 1 + 1 is 2. There could be some thoughts there, thought process. That's okay. Now, the thoughts basically the thoughts that are driven by all those things that we're trying to get rid of, right? The the biases, the ego, the emotions, all those things. Okay, so it's not just any kind of all thoughts. Although, we try to keep a quiescent mind. Again, we don't want to have delusional thoughts, thinking, daydreaming or thinking about this, wishful thinking, all those things. And also distracting thoughts that pop up in our mind. And those usually, Lecture Liu says are coming from our karmic past, okay? But, we just let them go. Don't pursue them. It's over time they will if we kind of practice over time, they'll reduce. Okay, be less and less. And definitely, though, we have control over, not having delusional thoughts. Okay, let go of all attachments, duality to realize the true self nature. Okay, so we have to relinquish our sentiments, preconceptions, biases, and stubbornness. Okay, all right. So yeah, so that's that this is the purpose of doing this all is to basically help us achieve that quiescent state of mind without giving rise to the affinities or conditions that mature the karmic seeds. All right. Okay, so finally another song here that says, so the song's titled "Cherish Affinities" by one of the 8 immortals, Hashengu. Okay, says reflect on this drama of life filled with bittersweet memories. Some are pursuing wealth and fame. Some are searching for truth. The power of choice is yours. Right? Life is not just a child's play. It's steeped in significance. With willing and vigorous effort from beginning to end, delivering great achievements. Again, we have a choice of what we're going to pursue in this life. Are we going to pursue the truth, the thing that is going to be eternal, or are we going to pursue the temporary things that won't last forever? Okay, it's up to us. Right? Why bother to complain and sigh? Why bother to dwell in the past? Better to cherish the moment and cherish affinity, rediscover our true self. This affinity, okay, so remember what we were talking about earlier about karmic affinity, we want to let go of that. Cherishing affinity, you can say also, whatever affinity that we do have, like our family relationships, that kind of affinity, or friends, sure, we cherish what affinity we have, but when it's time to separate, so that's here, so whether we meet or separate, don't take it too much to heart. Okay, so it's just karmic ebb and flow. Don't be tied by emotions. Life will be full of sweetness. So realize that this affinity is not forever. Okay, these affinities in this material world are not forever. Okay, and they will come and go. And so when they are gone, I mean, we shouldn't try to pursue or create this type of affinity. And we should not try to maintain it or prolong it even when it's time for it to end. Okay, so this is called sway your end, to just go according to whatever the affinity is. If it comes and it goes, just let it be. Okay, so that's part of what this is. But we also, the true affinity, the affinity you can say that's eternal, the Tao affinity, the Buddha affinity. That is what we really want to maintain, that kind of affinity. Okay, all right. So, but not the kind of the normal type of karmic affinity that we typically talk about. So, okay, so that's it. This was kind of a brief discussion about this topic. Letting go of karmic affinities and not giving rise to a single thought. I mean, it is kind of an important. I guess a goal or a practice to achieve that goal in order for us to really develop or reveal our Buddha nature, okay, the Buddha nature, and reveal that Buddha nature awareness and the prajna wisdom, which this is really what will help us endure in our cultivation, not just in this lifetime, but many lifetimes, okay, over, for eternity, basically, until we achieve Buddhahood. Okay, so this is what will help us the most. So again, letting go of all those attachments is very important. That's all part of this, all right? If I had said anything wrong or made mistakes, I asked the Buddhists for forgiveness, and also asked the transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone for their corrections. Thank you.